Oh my god! I ain't joking. This is the 30th take I've done trying to do this video. Please, somebody up there, let me get my words out properly so I don't have to do this video again. It's just not happening. I'm going to do one more take and that's it. Then I'm giving up. Hello, welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. Yes, I did it. So far, so good. If you haven't seen the interview from Michael Shannon, aka General Zod from Man of Steel, and aka General Zod now from the Flash movie, you've got to check that interview out. It is brilliant. The man is spitting facts. Michael Shannon always spits facts. So what has he had to say? He's been talking about how much he loves Zack Snyder. He's also been talking about how much he loves Andy Muschietti, how he wouldn't have even touched the Flash movie without Zack Snyder's permission. He's been oozing about Man of Steel, about the way it was written, the way it was directed, how he enjoyed the villain that he played in the movie as well. He likes the fact that he was playing a character that literally was part of a planet of being that destroyed their planet, but then they were going on to another planet to basically, they fucked their own planet up, so they were looking to take over another planet so they could live on it. And Michael Shannon has always found this very ironic because this is what NASA's doing right now. This is what NASA was doing while they were making Man of Steel, looking for other worlds for the human race to go and live on because we fucked up the planet Earth so deeply. And this always fascinated Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon is a very, very interesting guy. He also spoke about how he didn't like the way Zack Snyder was treated by WB with the whole Justice League debacle. And I've said it for a very long time when it comes to Michael Shannon's General Zod. His turn in Man of Steel is definitely my favourite performance from a comic book movie villain. He's better than Thanos. He's better than Heath Ledger's Joker. He is the best villain from any comic book movie. And don't get me wrong, I think Ledger's turn as the Joker is one of my favourites, that's for sure. I think that Thanos is well overrated. I don't think he's the great epic villain that everybody thinks and says that he is. I certainly think Ledger and Shannon are the best. I think when I look at every single, supervillain performance and character in other comic book movies, it just doesn't feel the same. The thing is with Ledger, as the Joker, this character is trying to prove that the world is just as fucked up as he is. That is his methodology. But in terms of Shannon Zod, it's about survival. His planet is gone and he wants his planet to live on. He wants his race to live on. He's not a moustache twirling villain. He's got a method to his madness. Can you even call Zod a villain? I mean, he kills people. He's happy to kill people. But he's doing it for a specific reason. Zod is a soldier. When a soldier kills, is that murder or is that part of war? That's another debate we can have at another time. So Michael Shannon Zod is a fabulous character. And he has depth. That's what I think. He's a multi-layered character. If we had 3 movies of General Zod in a Man of Steel trilogy, imagine how awesome he would have been. He really would have evolved as a character. Because I do see Zod in Man of Steel more of a caricature than a villain. I think it's a bit basic to call Zod a villain. Zod's a lot more than that. The regret in his face when he kills Jor-El. The regret in his face when he gets rid of the AI that basically has the artificial intelligence of, Jor-El's faults. And when he breaks that machine near the end of the movie, you can see the regret in Shannon's face. Shannon's performance was very purposeful in showing that Jor-El and Zod were once very good friends. You even see that at the beginning of the movie. Zod is desperate for Jor-El to take his side. but Jor-El just can't do it because Zod has become a vindictive killer. You know, there's elements of Zod's conduct where maybe you can agree with it. You can't agree with the murdering and the way he's going about things, but he's very unhappy with the Kryptonian Council because, as far as he's concerned, and he's speaking facts, is it's their fault that their planet's about to be destroyed. Their decision making into embracing kind of, artificial life forms over natural life forms and, stopping space exploration is the reason that Krypton is about to fold up. So he's a very interesting villain, and he's certainly my favourite villain. And I really have enjoyed listening to him talking about his love for Zack Snyder and Andy Muschietti and all things Man of Steel. So what a quality act Michael Shannon is. Wait, what? Another faceless Superman cameo in yet another DCEU movie? That is correct. We see a miniature Superman, not literally a miniature Superman, but a Superman on the kind of a newsreel saving, right? Being Superman, being a hero. We don't really, I think we kind of see it's Cavill, but it's not that much of a close-up. Yes, so the Flash movie will show us Superman doing his thing, but that's all you're going to get from Henry Cavill unless we get a surprise cameo in the movie. So it's not a headless cameo, but it's certainly another faceless one, and a lot of fans are deeply upset about this. I'm surprised that you're surprised at the end of the day. We know this was coming. People keep on asking me, what is their problem? Why couldn't Henry Cavill be in the Flash movie? I simply don't know. I know they had many, many issues with each other. Cavill had his issues with WB, and they also had other issues with Henry Cavill. It is a very, very strange situation why Cavill isn't in this movie, and they haven't really alluded, even like Andy Muschietti in these interviews, hasn't alluded why they swapped Flashpoint Superman for Flashpoint Supergirl. Why Henry Cavill couldn't have been in the first act of this movie alongside Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot. It simply doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't understand why there's been so many advanced screenings for The Flash. I kind of get the CinemaCon thing and the hype that led to, but what's weird about that advanced screening at CinemaCon, they put a fake ending in, there was no post-credit scenes, so nobody knows how that movie is going to end. One. Then a few weeks later, there has been a few fan screenings. Again, they put a fake ending, no post-credit scene. I'll tell you a little secret how these advanced screenings are ending. It basically goes black and the lights come on. There's no credits, no end credit scenes, post-credit scenes, but there's no credits at the end at all. So what you're going to see is anyone's guess. What we're going to see at the end of the movie. So what I'm telling you is they put a fake ending at the end of the movie. The ending of the movie isn't the ending of the movie. That's very, very interesting. But for those of you who are not in the know, yes, Jason Momoa sings in the Flash movie. Yes, that'll be interesting, and I think it's actually going to be a song that's also going to be released, so that should be funny, or that could be cringe-inducing. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, nobody actually knows how the Flash movie ends. Even the people who have seen advanced screenings don't know about the post-credit scenes. There's been rumours of George Clooney's Batman. Who knows? That could be one of the post-credit scenes. Will James Gunn do anything and put it in the end of the movie? Is James Gunn deciding, who is it up to, how this movie ends? I think James Gunn has come along and is doing something for the ending, or that has done something for the ending of the Flash movie. So we're going to see something at the end of the movie. What's disappointing really about the test screening I saw and the advanced screenings, I think there could have been a much better ending even before James Gunn had showed up. And I always said it when I used to do my lives, and that was in the stages where I was so excited about the potential of a Flashpoint movie. I always said when Hamada changed the timeline, they should have had Barry come back. He sees the whole of Justice, something that wasn't in the original DCEU. He goes in it, and it's full to the brim of Justice League members. New Batman, new Superman. It's amazing. It's the golden age of the Justice League, right? That's how the Flash movie should have ended. And you see the brimming potential of a new DC universe after Barry has, rebooted the universe. That's how you end it. That's how you get fans excited. But no, how they kind of go to the end bit of this movie is a little bit disappointing. It doesn't really give you a clue. It doesn't give you any hype. And now we've got James Gunn here now, making even more changes. And actually very interesting, because I nearly forgot to mention this, and this is one thing I wanted to talk about. James Wan, the director of the first Aquaman and the sequel Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, has admitted how difficult it is to keep up with all the changes WB have made to the storytelling in the DCEU, and he's had to implement it all in his Aquaman sequel, and he's found that very, very difficult indeed. I say thank you, James Wan, for actually being honest and not pretending that everything in the garden is rosy. It must be very difficult to come up, what is he talking about? It must be difficult to keep up with all those changes. So what is he talking about? He's talking about going from the moment that we had Hamada's plan, then we went to Adrian DeLuca's plan of bringing Henry back, then we went to James Gunn's plan, which is totally different. And it seems to me that James isn't very happy. Probably isn't very happy with James Gunn either, because I believe his Aquaman universe is toast after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I think I'm going to have a guess at that. So yes, James Wan, not exactly very happy. But we are going to see a very dramatic, I think, ending to the Flash movie and a couple of very interesting post-credit scenes, hopefully. Connected universes are very difficult things to pull off, and Kevin Feige did pull it off for quite a while, and I think he really nailed it from the first Avengers onwards, although the build-up of his early solo movies really helped stick the landing of Avengers and, the interconnected formula that he come up with. He took a television format and brought it to cinema. He made a movie series. He took the TV series Dynamic and made a movie series. And I've been thinking about Arrowverse, who tried to do similar to what Feige did, but on television. And the question is, now that Arrowverse is pretty much dead, was Arrowverse a success? Were they good at doing the connected universe, or did they fail the medium? So I've mentioned this before. I think Arrowverse did a better job at putting together a connective universe than the DCEU did, because Arrowverse always had the same person running it, which was Greg Berlanti. Not someone who I think is the perfect creative, but he was there all the time. He at one point was working with Jeff Johns, Mark Guggenheim, but he was working with a lot of good DC Comics people with a lot of knowledge of Green Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow. Black Lightning was a great show, one of my favorite Arrowverse shows as well. Supergirl was good in places. Look, they had a lot of shows, and ultimately the ambitious crossovers they did, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Earth X one they did plenty of crossovers. I can't remember what they're all called. The first one was literally between Oliver and Barry Allen, The Flash, and they were the highlights, if you like, of the crossovers. But the crossovers were a very ambitious thing as we got more and more shows adding to this new DC connective universe. Ultimately, I think they did a superb job of Arrowverse, even when the shows weren't as good as they once were. Arrowverse was at its strength in the first couple of seasons of The Flash and the Arrow show. And they certainly did lighten things up after that. and it wasn't for everyone, but they were still doing the crossovers and people were still coming back for the crossovers. So the sad thing is they didn't finish it off. You know, you had Crisis on Infinite Earths, then you really didn't have any proper crossovers again. I know The Flash tried to do this and that, and obviously the final season saw Oliver Queen return to the show. But at the end of the day, you know, Arrowverse at least deserved a final crossover where it's all set up, they're the Justice League, and, you know, they go and do their thing, and they have one more crossover. But they didn't really do that, and that's a shame. But while I was following the Arrowverse, I enjoyed it very, very much, and I thought it was very good. I think what really hurt the Arrowverse for a lot of people was after the second seasons of Arrow and the Flash, but also I think what really hurt Arrowverse as well was Batwoman. Batwoman was a smack in the chops, although I think Arrowverse had a lot of problems prior to Batwoman as well. It's bad enough that they made Batwoman the way they did, in a very extremist, far left way. It was very political. It was, you know what they attempted to do. But 1 minute you've got one actor playing that part, then they basically create a new character to put on the costume that's not even from the comics. It was never going to work. Once Ruby Rose left and she exposed the CW and the way they made Arrowverse, it was a very difficult situation. We've heard some rumours that it wasn't a great environment, you know, when they were making the Flash series as well. And, you know, also rumours about Arrow and the other shows. So, and with what we heard about Batwoman, you know, considering Ruby had that horrible accident and the disgusting way that WBTV treated her, and this is not the first time that employees of WBTV have complained about them. We remember Clayne Crawford and the whole Lethal Weapon TV series drama as well. So I think that the intentions for Arrowverse were really, really good. I enjoyed it. As a DC fan, I got a lot out of the first few years, and I think the crossovers were very ambitious. I don't think it failed. I think it lost people in the middle to the end of it. But there's always a lot of great stuff to remember from Arrowverse, because it started off with the best of intentions. So, considering we started off this video talking about Michael Shannon, by the way, there's something I missed out about that whole interview. He actually told Andy Muschietti, when he approached him about reprising his role as Zod in The Flash, Muschietti was saying to him, "You're playing a multiversal version of this character," and Michael Shannon's saying, "But I don't know what the multiverse is." And I just wanted to mention that because I think Michael is so honest and direct. He admits he knows nothing about these comics. He's not really a comic book guy, but he's very proud to have been part of Man of Steel. Now, while we're talking about Michael Shannon's General Zod, I think we could have a little discussion about the minute differences between Zod in the Flash movie and Zod in Man of Steel. Now, let me be clear about this. These are not the same characters. He's not playing the same Zod from Man of Steel. He's playing an alternate multiversal version. So you understand that, right? So what is the difference between Zod in Man of Steel and in the Flash movie? The Zod in the Flash movie is a lot more ruthless and a lot stronger physically, and he's willing. I don't want to be spoilery. What I'll say is he's very happy to kill people in the Flash movie. That's what I'm going to say. In terms of a killer, he ain't going to spare you in the Flash. You've probably got more chance being spared, having your life spared in Man of Steel when it comes to Zod than in the Flash movie. And you're going to see at least a couple of examples of how ruthless Zod is in this movie. So I would say the defined difference between Zod in Man of Steel and in the Flash movie, you're going to be seeing a big difference between these characters, because in the Flash movie, he is a lot more ruthless than he was in Man of Steel. Man of Steel was a contemporary modern day take of Superman for a very jaded era and generation. And I think a lot of people, I don't think you have to be intelligent to watch Snyderverse DC. I don't think it's anything to do with the intellect or anything like that. You either get it or you don't. It's contemporary, it is darker, it is Superman in the real world, but it's not the Superman we grew up with. There's no question about that. And there's lots of different reasons why Zack, Goya, and Nolan did what they did. But yeah, Man of Steel is a contemporary take on Superman. And I think that's the difference between Man of Steel and Superman the movie. Superman the movie brings Superman back to his wish fulfillment. You know, Superman was created by Siegel and Schuster to be a wish fulfillment fantasy. Now, Snyder, Goyer, and Nolan put this character in a contemporary world and say, this is what might happen if Superman arrived on the planet Earth. Some people would embrace the character straight away and look at him as a hero. Some people would be scared of him, would dislike him, and would reject Superman. And that's the reality of the situation. I don't really know why Man of Steel and BVS was so divisive. I mean, I do know to a point. I know because they're different, because they take a because everyone thinks they know iconic characters and they go, well, Superman would never do that. Batman would never do that. Why are you making them like this? And I think it's very difficult with comic book fans because they don't like, changes to the source material. It's something that upsets people who are fans of a book or, fans of a comic book. And when you go at these things in a different way, people do get very, very offended by it. And they say, well, hold on a minute. This is not the Superman I grew up with. I want the Superman I grew up with. And this is the problem we've mentioned on here on a multitude of occasions where, when a studio wants DC to make a lot of money and wants to attract the mainstream audience, but you've got the director, Zack Snyder, saying, well, I don't care about the mainstream audience. I care about my fans. I want to give them what they expect from me. And I think that's not Snyder's fault. That's not the fans who don't like Snyder's stuff. It's not the Snyderverse fans' fault. It's, at the end of the day, as a studio, you've got to make the right decisions. And as great as Zack is, he was put in a wrong position. He was put in a position where he was shaving against the grain when people just wanted bog standard DC. Yes, they wanted DC to be done in the Marvel way, or should I say the Marvel Studios way, the Marvel Cinematic Universe way. And in the end, a lot of people said we don't want that, and a lot of people said we do want that. And I think bringing in Snyder confused matters, and they've been confused ever since. A lot of people ask me, Mick, do you think James Gunn's DC Universe will succeed or fail? Well, there's plenty of parameters of failure and success, but the person who's brought him on, which is David Zaslav, wants him to bring the studio money. So the parameters of success and failure are really quite simple for David Zaslav. He wants $1 billion a movie. He wants $2 billion for probably a Superman film or a Batman film or a Justice League film. And maybe even at least $1 billion for a Wonder Woman film as well. So Zaslav would have made it clear in no circumstances, right? He's not misrepresented what he wanted, right? He wants to make money. So in no uncertain terms, he's told Gunn, you're here to bring in the bacon. And they're the parameters of success and failure. Now, success and failure for James Gunn, as far as I'm concerned, is making DC films, TV, animation that I enjoy. And if I enjoy it, then James Gunn would have been successful in my eyes. But ultimately, whether James Gunn's successful in my eyes or not really doesn't matter, or your eyes. It's about how Zaslav sees it, and it's about bringing in money. So if James Gunn starts bringing in the bacon, he'll be successful and he'll stay running DC many, many years. If Superman Legacy doesn't bring in the $2 billion that they want from its global haul, then his position will already be untenable. They'll probably maybe give him a chance to make a couple more projects, but I do think that you can't keep on firing people and keep on replacing leadership and, after leadership. It doesn't work. You've got to stick with someone. The best thing to do is stick with Gunn for at least a couple of years and see what he delivers. But there's no question, when you're making a Superman film, it should at least make $1 billion at the very least. And if it doesn't, questions will be asked, because David Zaslav isn't a charity case. James Gunn is there because Zaslav believes he's the right person to bring in the bacon. Zaslav wants the MCU formula. He believes that's where the money's at. That's where the money used to be at. Now, it could be at there again if the DC universe is actually executed in the correct manner. And I think that's the question here. Will people come in? Will people consume James Gunn's DC universe? I think, look, Gunn does things that people like. We saw that with Guardians 1, 2, and 3. But when it's come to DC and when it's come to the Suicide Squad, he wasn't as successful. And yes, I realise it was during COVID, so he gets a buy. He gets a buy there, right? He gets that excuse. But there's no COVID pandemic anymore. So when Superman Legacy is released, Zaslav will be expecting a grand total of $2 billion. This is what they wanted for Batman vs Superman, $2 billion. And the movie didn't even make $1 billion, and that's why Snyder was gone. If Snyder's movie was divisive but brought home $2 billion, do you think Zack Snyder wouldn't have a long-term job making DC content? They wouldn't give a shit about divisive reactions if Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice made $2 billion. But it didn't. It didn't make the money they wanted. Plus, it was a divisive movie. So, Snyder was out the door. And this is the position that James Gunn's been in. A man who's never made $1 billion movie is expected to make $1 billion movies. And, you can just try and justify that. You can try and jump around those houses. But he's there because they believe he's their best chance of making the money that they want. They want $1 billion a movie. They want $2 billion for a Batman movie. I keep on telling you that. And a Superman movie as well. And there's some people who think that Matt Reeves' Batman 2 will be Reeves' final movie. And they gave him the second movie because, the Batman did well. But they're not necessarily over the moon excited about the box office for the Batman, because that movie didn't make over $1 billion. But to be charitable to that movie, it was in the middle of the COVID pandemic. So, not everyone was going to cinemas. There was a fear factor. But yeah, there could be a scenario where we never see a third the Batman movie. So that will be interesting as well. But yeah, so we've spoken about James Gunn on plenty of occasions, but he has to make money. He has to bring in money for the studio. These studios right now are in financial trouble. They're not making the money they once were. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because we've seen Guardians do quite well. Guardians 3 do quite well. The Spider-Verse movie has done very well for its, his Thursday night, kind of premiere or whatever they call it. I think about 17 million, which is very good. But then you've got Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Then you've got, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania that also didn't do so well. And so it's been a mixed year so far for comic book movies. 2 have done well, right? The Spider-Verse movie is obviously going to do well. And the Flash movie, no one's none the wiser. The Flash movie is going to be interesting. I'm going to be, don't forget, I will look into when the embargo for the reviews comes up, then we'll be reading the reviews, because I think the reviews are going to be very interesting, because if those reviews are positive, I think it will have a much bigger opening than, projections are saying. If those reviews are negative, they really could go wrong for the opening box office of the Flash movie. This has been Saturday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. Smash the like button. If you love me, subscribe if you're new. Please have your say, and I'll see you again in the next video. Till I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. Come on United! Although by the time this video's uploaded, we'll know what's happened in the FA Cup final, and I'm dreading it. I don't fancy us today. Let's see what happens. I'll see you later on. Goodbye.